everyone has different opinion. You just say it and people can listen to it and respect your idea and opinion. You don't necessarily have to agree with each other. And that's a conversation. Hello everybody, welcome back to a new episode of La Copy with Henri and Mike. Today is the 1st of November 2022. It is a Tuesday. At the moment it's about 4 p.m. in the afternoon. And here we are in the lovely Fort Canning Park of Singapore. Why is it so special? You want to take over?
Sure. Okay, so Fort Canning Park in Singapore is right smack in the middle of the city. Before modern Singapore developed, this is actually where you can see the sea because it's actually a hill.
Strait of Singapore.
Yes. So you can walk around and there are different gardens. There's Raffles Gardens, Sanila Utama Gardens. There's a lot of spices, different flowers and plants. You can come here and chill during your lunchtime. Or if you're a visitor, foreign visitor who's visiting Singapore, do come by and check it out because it's just right smack in the middle of the town and it's at the start of Orchard Road where people go to shop.
Also to Clarke Quay as well, that's where we came from just now. And also you can see the city skyline.
Yes,
so it's really beautiful place and the plants and the tree just amazing. They're really, really old because you see they are very tall.
Yeah.
And inside this building, they have the Heritage Center or Heritage Gallery whereby they display the founding of Singapore from the beginning of time to now. So it's really interesting to see how different tribes or different settlements, different kingdoms came together to be part of the history of Singapore. Yeah. Physically, we have not seen each other for 4 weeks.
Exactly. And welcome back to the sunny Singapore. Okay, it's not that sunny now, but yeah, welcome back to the tropical Singapore.
Sometimes I forgot how green Singapore is, located in a tropical area. So constantly you have a lot of rains and also sunshine. So that kind of encourage the whole plants and trees and flowers to grow all the time.
True.
So it's like really lush and emerald green. And that's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Because in Europe right now, I was in 3 cities, right? In Berlin, Zurich, and Barcelona. So Berlin was really, really cold already.
It's further north. That's the
when
reason.
I arrived that day, it was 8 degrees Celsius and it was blowing with lots of wind. It's so cold. So I had to bring out my winter jacket to kind of like just keep myself warm. Back then, 4 weeks ago when I was there, the leaves already turned red, yellowish, and lots of them has already fallen to the ground. And then when I was in Zurich, that's even more beautiful. The color was so vivid along the Zurich Lake.
It's like end autumn, beginning of winter, right?
Zurich was like really autumn time. And then Barcelona was different. Barcelona is like a bit later. So it was kind of like still summerish. I was still wearing my t-shirt and shorts. Just sometimes it rains, but it stopped pretty quickly. But the weather is fantastic, about 20 something degrees. It's like Singapore, but it's not as humid.
Right.
I'm tired. I'm somehow exhausted. Like I can feel my eyes are closing, but I'm trying to stay focused. I've been waking up at 5 a.m. in the last few days. I've been back for 5 days so far. So I flew from Barcelona via Milan and then back to Singapore. It took me about 15 hours altogether. It was a nice flight. So the Spanish old couple sitting next to me, like a granny and granddad, they were really, really sweet. They were so excited that they are going to Singapore and then to Vietnam for the 12 days journey of traveling around. So the Oma, the granny, was explaining to me where she will be going and then what the cities, what the villages she'll be seeing. And I said to her, wow, 12 days of Singapore and Vietnam. Do you think it's not too stressful? For them, they were like, no, it's like vamos. It's like ba, it's to go. They were like really highly energized and really ready to go. And they were traveling with another friend of theirs, like a couple.
All right.
They're all old couple, I think probably about their late 60s or something.
Okay.
And they were really, really cute because, like don't necessarily watch the movie. They kind of just turn it on and just listen to the sound and then they fall asleep. But then what they really do actively is that they take out pieces of paper of their Sudoku and then they kind of like time that with each other to see who done it faster. So there's a certain period of time, I think per minute, they will just have to compete with each other. So they're always looking at each other to see whether the other person's finished or not finished.
Do you think this reflects the activity different age group do?
Perhaps. I also think it is a good activity because they were really actively using their brain and then trying to compete with each other. And the Oma will say, no, that's wrong. And she was trying to control him. And then he said, don't touch me. Like they were just like really literally fighting.
Let me do my thing. Go away.
And they were really thinking hard. And you can see that they're thinking to fill out the numbers there as well. So that was really, really cute. And also they didn't use anything digitally. So I think that's a good for your brain to stop for a while and to really engage your brain to do something different, with piece of paper and a pen. I was very impressed. And they did that throughout the whole flight, apart from having food or drinks or sleeping.
That's so interesting. Doing
and
things away from digital stuff.
I was thinking that, wow, if you have a partner like this, you can do this with him or her in the old age. I think that's really cute as well, isn't it? Like you have a very similar hobbies.
Yeah.
To some extent, you see.
This reminds me of a couple of weeks ago. Caroline and I, we decided to, after dinner basically, we decided to, okay, let's not watch TV or like use our phone. Let's engage in an intellectual game, basically to stimulate our mind. Yeah. So we started playing Chinese chess.
Did you?
We did. We spent an hour doing it, just playing one game, trying to outwin each other. I won once in a very blue moon because my track record with her in terms of Chinese chess will always be she has an upper hand. She's so good at it. But somehow this time around, I guess because she was tired.
I want to play with her.
Food coma kicks in and then she just let it slip a little bit and managed to win her.
I want to play with her. I have not played her for so long.
Yeah, so this is, when you say that about a Spanish grandma, I was thinking like, oh my God, they are doing that. And here we are at our half their age. We are trying our best to get away from digital stuff and doing back to the basic, you know. Like,
that's actually very true because, you know, like, I kind of observe myself. I find it is really, really difficult and challenging for me to sit down and then read a book. I think I've lost that ability, you know. I mean, I'll open a physical book and I'll try to read a page, but then somehow my mind will start to wander and then I'll just be thinking about my to-do list. Have I finished this? Have I not finished this? Or have I not finished that? Maybe I should do that right now. I'll be like constantly in this chatter box. And then somehow I just lose interest of the physical book itself anymore. I think I need to train that back again.
Maybe it's the environment. Like I realized that this year I have started reading more again.
You literally read it with a physical book?
Kindles.
No, those are not really considered because I would say that I also read a lot, inverted commas.
Yeah.
But I listen and I use Kindle to kind of flip it through very quickly.
Oh no, for me,
physical book has a different meaning there, you see.
Yeah,
it takes
for sure. I mean, the smell and the physical book, yes, but that's the beauty of ebooks, that you can drop it and then you can pick it up again.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about is that when you have a physical book in front of you, that requires a lot of concentration and also patience because that's very different from Kindle. Kindle, you are constantly flipping through and clicking here and there. Same thing as a digital thing. But with a physical book, you have the paper, the ink on the paper. You have to really concentrate and read through the lines or skim through the line and then to flip through. And that requires more energy as well as concentration and patience to do it.
Okay, I mean, I kind of get where you're coming from. But I think the aim objective for me is to read the book. So I still managed to do it. So how I do it was like, you know, really set myself in the environment. Yeah, so maybe I'll see my balcony and then nothing, phones away and just really read. So
you can't bring yourself to the environment.
Yeah, that's what I do. So sometimes I'll go to the park and just bring a Kindle with me and I'll just read for maybe a couple of chapters. So it may take me like an hour or two. And then after that, I'll just continue to do whatever else I need to do. Yeah, so that's what I do. Of course, it's not with a physical book. There's definitely some differences. Yeah, but at least the act of like going to read trains the patience, trains the concentration. I think that I start to regain a little bit of that this year.
Maybe I'll try again. I mean, I bought one book, like physical book. I really pounded upon that for a long time. I went back to that secondhand bookstore in Barcelona twice.
Okay.
And I read through some pages on that book itself. It's a German book called Der Junge. It's talk about this African boy who grew up in South Africa and his whole situation there. So I thought it was a good practice for me to keep up with the German language, like reading wise as well. But the last few days has been quite busy, so I will need to pick it up again. So things like that, I try to take a small step to it. But anyway, other than that, I thought of picking up my Spanish again. I went to a bar in one of my favorite bar/restaurant, like tapas place in Sarria in Barcelona. It's one of the neighborhoods.
Okay.
And I was sitting there by myself because I went out for a walk that day. I want to see the sunset. So I came down. I said, oh, I'm kind of like peckish. I want to eat something. Also drink garnacha, like the wine from Catalonia.
Right.
So I just sat down at the bar and they said, oh, they only start serving at 8 p.m. I said, that's fine. I'll just sit at the bar and drink a glass of garnacha and I'll be set to go. And I'll start ordering food or tapas from you at exactly 8 o'clock.
Okay.
So anyway, I did that. And then I was sitting there and then one of these old gentlemen, like he was dressed really nicely, you know, like with a what's it called, that kind of cap thing.
Okay. Like a hat.
A hat.
Like one. Okay. Hat.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then like dressed really like shirts and shoes, then with a walking stick kind of thing.
Okay.
So he sat down next to me, he looked at me, and he did this. Then I look at him, I did this. Then I turn back, have my drink, have my wine, and then I keep eating. Then he ordered something. He started with a glass of Verdejo. It's this white wine from Spain. It was delicious as well. And he ordered like a one tapas with the anchovy and it's kind of like marinated in a really beautiful olive oil.
All right.
So he sat down and I think he wanted to have conversation with people. So he looked at the couple next to him who was speaking Spanish and were really engaging with each other. So they seems to kind of ignore him, you know, because they were talking.
Right.
He looked at me. I wasn't sure whether he should talk to me because he wasn't sure whether I speak Spanish or he can carry on with the conversation. So when I look at him, I just had another sip. I said, "Hola, buenas tardes."
Conversation starter.
So he said, "Oh, tu español muy bien." Then I said, "No, mi español es muy mal."
I was like, oh shit.
Then I said to him, "Pero con vino de España, it will come." I said, with the wine of Spain, the conversation will flow basically. Anyway, so we started talking about it. And he's actually 89 years old.
Oh my.
I was like, whoa. And I asked him the secret. I said like, what is the secrets for you, you know, to be 89? He said, well, he loves to walk.
Okay.
He loves to chat. And he loves his wine. So he said Verdejo is the one to go for. I said, okay. So he said for him, it's like he always like to walk in the neighborhood. He doesn't really travel that much, but he said all his life he has been working in Barcelona. He loves his family. And then he spent a lot of time in the barrio, like the neighborhood. And then that neighborhood called Sarria.
Okay.
Yeah. So we talk a lot of things. So we talk about the whole colonization in Asia and the Portuguese, the Dutch, the British, and the Spaniards who were in this part of the world.
Right.
And then he knew where Taiwan was. He knew that it was cool to call year for Formosa. So he was well read with history, geography, everything else. I had a good conversation with him. And that's the freedom. I love it. Like everyone has different opinion on that. And you just say it and people can listen to it and respect your idea and opinion. You don't necessarily have to agree with each other. And that's a conversation. But that kind of freedom in terms of conversation, it does not necessarily allowed in some of the jurisdiction. And that's something I find a little bit, I'll put it this way, that's something I find is a shame. Even though I don't necessarily speak the language fluently, but I can feel the warmth a lot. So that's why I want to pick up Spanish again. And now I'm back to Singapore, 5 days in. I don't know, I mean, I'm a bit relaxed now compared to before. And I also think these 4 weeks give me some opportunity to slow down, to think, to do my things. Like a lot of paperwork to settle with.
Right.
And talk to some friends of mine who I'm not seeing for
half a year or almost a year.
More than that.
Oh, because it was
9
pandemic
months
before that, right? Yeah, true that.
Yeah, so that was nice to re-engage with them. And I got a lot of clarity over there as well, like what I want to do and where I want to hit to. I think there's another thing I want to practice. I want to start practicing more gratitude. I mean, I do write my diary, but I don't necessarily write about what I'm grateful for. And that's something I think I should start writing that in my diary. Because a lot of time I feel like I'm here in Singapore, but I'm not here in Singapore. My mind will be
here, but then your mind is elsewhere.
My mind will be wandering somewhere. But when I'm in Europe, I'm there. But also sometimes I'll think about you and mom in Singapore. You know, and I'll be like, my mind will be wandering. And then I want to be here with you guys. So I'm like constantly in that state whereby I'm split into two. So at the beginning of the years, one of the New Year resolution is like to split my time ideally between Europe and Asia.
Right.
To some extent, I've been doing that, which is good. But just that certain thing I still have to solidify with that. You know, I find a base in Europe so I can constantly spend 6 months there and 6 months here. And I'm very grateful as well because some friends are actually coming to visit me.
Something to look forward to, right?
And also in Singapore, I think through CrossFit here, I am getting to know some nice people, and I really, really appreciate that, you know, for them to really include me inside of it. I need to give myself a chance in Singapore, you know, to practice gratitude at the same time, also really appreciate what I have. Maybe that might help me to be more calm with regards to this always split between two areas, you see.
Okay.
My word for this week is grateful.
Oh, grateful. Okay.
Grateful.
Greatful. Grateful.
To be grateful.
Grateful.
Yeah. So, how are you? How's your week then?
So far good. So last week I went back to my annual camping exercise, essentially outfield in the jungle, 3 days, 2 nights. And
was it pouring with rain?
It was. So
you're like 落汤鸡. You didn't pray hard enough.
I didn't pray hard enough. So yeah, it was muddy, it was wet, it was cold, especially at night. That sucks, really. I thought I could handle it. I mean, I survived, but I'm in my 30s now. Physically, it's really tiring as compared to the last 10 years ago when I was doing similar exercise.
But in this case, luckily that was your last one, right? So
yes.
You're done with all this reservists now, isn't it?
For now, yes. I'm still obliged to, if they ever call me, until 40 years old. So that's just maybe a couple of years away.
So if they call you, you still have to go back and train?
Yeah, I have to.
But then what's the difference between finishing now and still getting called back? So which means you're not really fully finished.
Okay, so it works like that in Singapore because it's conscription, so mandatory you have to go.
Right.
So for the first 2 years when you turn 18, you have to serve 2 years full time. Then thereafter, every single year, average, you'll get called back once for missions like what I've just done. And you're supposed to do 10 cycles of it. That means essentially 10 years. They don't call you every single year. Once you're done with that, they will put you into this thing called Ministry of Defense Reserve.
Reserve, okay.
Yeah. So then from then on, is a big pool of reserve in Singapore. And whenever they need you, they will just activate you and you have to go. And you're obliged to serve until 40 for the specialist. And then if you're an officer, you have to serve until you're 55. Yes, so this is the obligation.
Which means that even though you finished a certain stage of this training, you still have to be somehow or the other physically fit and ready for this kind of events, right?
Theoretically, yes.
But reality is not.
Reality, I think a lot of people, not really.
Okay.
Yeah, because annually you have to clear this thing, they call it IPPT, physical fitness status basically. So you have to clear 2.4 km of run and then push up and also sit up.
How many sit up and push up can you do within 1 minute?
50 odd.
Both.
Yeah, so I survived and I'm glad. From here on, I just hope that they don't call me anymore.
You need to pray harder.
Pray harder.
Maybe too many people pray. Like the God has to randomly select. I mean, he or she cannot give to everybody,
this
right?
one. The rest, too bad. Maybe.
Do you have any aha moment through that experience last week?
Oh, for sure, yes. I was having this discussion with some of my mates I think a lot of people at this age, they are not really looking forward to...
This age is in what? Like mid-30s?
Yeah, around 30s. Because most of them are 30s. Of course, there are people who are young, like just out of university.
Yeah.
I think one thing from their conversations that I have had with my mates was that inertia is very strong, you know. You're not willing to do it.
Okay.
So to get the engine started, it needs a lot of warm up. Yeah. So once you go over that tipping point, and then that's where, okay, let's just autopilot, you will start to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that process is very apparent when we were preparing for this entire outfield exercise altogether. You know, people are just trying to find ways to, I'm not going to do it. Siam, basically. So we had a discussion about that, you know, and
what was the conclusion?
The conclusion was,
you got no choice.
You have no choice. I think that's a basic thing because it's mandatory, so you have no choice. Other than that, you know, the reason why you don't really want to go out is you don't want to get sweaty, wet, dirty, muddy. You know, so that's on a personal front. On the other end, it's tiring physically. If you're in your 30s, you're not as fit as before. Generally, the conclusion of that, once you get over the tipping point, overcome the inertia, and then everything else kick in. So automatic pilot, get the job done quickly, and then the rest of the time when we are resting, we're just catching up, really, you know, having a good heart-to-heart talk outfield under the stars and rains. So that's what would happen, and good memories looking back.
So you actually had a good time.
So for me, inertia, something that was very difficult to overcome for not only me but many people. So
it kind of reminded me of like procrastination. How should you deal with procrastination? And the answer to that is count to 5, count down to 5, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, do it.
Procrastination on a personal level, yes, but we got to remember that first, you don't have a choice for this, and we are talking about activating a physical group of people.
If
that is a
war
huge.
should come, just finger crossed. If a war should come, maybe some of them will still want to try to get away with it. But the thing is, defend your country, like what happened to Ukraine. That literally not everybody, most of the people volunteer themselves. Not only guys, but girls as well.
So this is peacetime. So during war, nobody knows. You see, I mean, Singapore side, we have not experienced any of this war ever since World War II. So it's not sure, you know. So it's always hypothetical. Until the day comes, then we will find out the real thing, whether this entire narrative, the construct of military to defend yourself stands true or not.
So your word for this week's inertia.
Yeah.
Okay.
One thing I realized about this activation, because I mentioned that it's mandatory, personal level, we don't have a choice. Then how then do you motivate people? Well, when we're younger, there's always a hard approach to things, basically coercion. You scold, you force, you use your authority to do it. But honestly, as you grow older, this doesn't work anymore. You have to use a soft approach. How do you connect with the people? How do you rally the crowd using the soft approach? finding commonality. You can have a very big goal, people understand that for sure, but to really execute, like for example, to do the hard things, to go outfield, nobody really want to do it.
Right.
So there's a lot of like community people that will kind of like brotherhood community, helping each other to pull this through. You just want to get it done. Yeah. So I think that helps a lot.
So we should come to a conclusion of this episode. For this episode, the words are
inertia for me
and grateful for me. And with that, we'll come to an end. And thank you very much for tuning in and listening to us or watching us on YouTube. Be kind to yourself, take care of each other, and don't forget to smile. And also don't forget to subscribe to Henri and Mike. We shall see you in the very next episode. Ciao, ciao. Cheers.
Bye.
Bye.